The Italian Deputy Health Minister Pierpaolo Sileri says that he believes Italy is currently experiencing the peak of the coronavirus outbreak. More than 10,000 people have died there, the highest death toll anywhere in the world. He told the BBC that the country might see a drop in the death rate in a week or 10 days' time. Mr. Sileri was speaking to the BBC's Andrew Marr.
I believe the lockdown starts to work. I mean, we started the lockdown at the middle of March. I mean, we did start with the first lockdown between the 8th and the 9th of March. So obviously you need to wait at least 14, 17, 18 days after that to see the reduction of number of infected people. Over the last few days, we had an increase of infection, and this was due to the increase of the swab that have been performed. So we are searching more, and obviously we have more results of positive people, mainly with low and without symptoms.
Sorry, can I ask you to explain exactly what has changed, do you think?
Over the last 3 days, we start to do more swab, especially to trace and
so you're testing more, basically?
We are testing more, exactly. And obviously, when you test more, you may find more positive people, and this will explain the increased number of positive that we found over the last 2 days. But I believe that we are living in the peak of this epidemic. I believe in 1 week time, 10 days maximum, we will see a significant drop of positive cases.
That's the Italian Health Minister Pierpaolo Sileri. And in fact, just as you were listening to him there, we've had some more official figures from Italy saying that the death toll from coronavirus has risen by 756. That's to 10,779. And we've also got the total number of confirmed coronavirus cases, so people testing positive for coronavirus in Italy, and that has risen to 97,689, and that's a rise from 92,472 on Saturday, so a rise of about 7,000 or so. Those are the latest official figures from Italy. Well, the number of coronavirus fatalities in Spain rose by 838 overnight, marking the country's highest daily rise in deaths. 6,500 people have now died from the virus in Spain, and there are just under 80,000 confirmed infections. It's one of Europe's hardest hit countries, but Spanish health officials say the virus there could be near its peak. Well, the journalist Graham Keeley has the latest developments from Madrid.
The government are going to approve these new restrictions. They will come into force from tomorrow. They will mean that essentially non-essential workers, these are, for instance, construction workers, postal workers, people working on production lines which don't relate to the epidemic, for instance, car workers, some opticians, and even people running shops that are not related to food, they will not be allowed to go to work for the next 2 weeks and will have to stay at home. The government is saying that they are cheered to some extent by the fact that the number of cases is beginning to level out. However, when you speak to doctors in hospitals, they say, well, that may be what the government is saying, but it seems that actually the problem is that not enough people are being tested because there's a shortage of testing kits. So the real picture may not be quite so optimistic.
And that's the journalist Graham Keeley, who was speaking to us a little earlier from Madrid. Now, Syria has confirmed its first death from coronavirus. The United Nations has said that all parties in the war-torn country must stop fighting to avoid further catastrophe, calling coronavirus a deadly threat. The World Health Organization says that Syria's health system has been acutely weakened by years of conflict in the country. The US President Donald Trump has backed away from imposing a quarantine on New York and 2 adjoining states, despite saying yesterday that he was considering the move. Instead, residents are being strongly advised against non-essential travel. Freya Cole has more.
New York City, home to more than 8.5 million people. now a dangerous hotspot for the spread of disease. There are more than 53,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus in the city alone. Across the entire state, more than 700 people have died. President Trump told reporters he was considering a 2-week quarantine to stop the spread in New York and to other states. But just hours later, he backed away from the idea, saying on the recommendation of the White House Coronavirus Task Force and upon consultation with the governors of New York, New Jersey and Connecticut, I've asked the CDC to issue a strong travel advisory. Effective immediately, the Centres for Disease Control and Prevention urged residents in the 3 states to stop all non-essential domestic travel for 14 days. It says the advice does not apply to employees of critical infrastructure industries, including trucking, public health, financial services and food supply. The idea of an enforced quarantine had outraged some city leaders who feared it would paralyse the economy and cause mass confusion.
I didn't speak to him about any quarantine. I haven't had those conversations. I don't even know what that means.
The United States now has the highest number of cases in the world. Some medical workers say they no longer feel safe, pleading with residents to do the right thing and stay at home. Freya Cole, BBC News.
South Korea says it'll quarantine all new arrivals from overseas for a fortnight. Officials say that half of all new confirmed cases in recent days have been diagnosed in people who've come into the country. Our correspondent Laura Bicker was at Incheon Airport as a flight arrived from London.
This setup is all about protecting South Korea from a fresh outbreak of coronavirus. All arrivals from Europe will be tested at one of these stations. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them all standing by. Over the last few days, around half of all South Korea's new coronavirus cases have come from overseas, many of them from Europe, and that is one of the reasons why everyone's being tested. To wait for your results, you're taken on a bus to a residential centre. You'll get your results in about 12 hours. Now, these testing centres are outside, but others within the country, you get these kind of phone booth, plastic phone booth type testing centres where you can walk in and be tested in a matter of minutes. Before you arrive here into this area, you go through a series of checks, a temperature check, then you have to fill in all your contact details. They will verify that. All arrivals have to download this application on their phone, a quarantine app. They have to fill in their symptoms for 14 days while they are in self-isolation. If they fail to do so, the authorities will track them down. Now, when it comes to self-isolation, the government is saying that anybody who breaks these rules, if you're Korean, you will be fined, and if you're a foreigner, you will be deported. The latest measure that they've introduced is that passengers in all flights coming to Korea must pass a temperature check. If they don't, they will not be allowed on the flight. Now, South Korean authorities are coming under increasing pressure to close their borders. People here feel like their own outbreak has been dealt with. The one thing they're worried about now is people coming from outside the country and reintroducing this virus. A fresh cluster could emerge.
The BBC's Laura Bicker there reporting from Seoul.